Hey family.
Hi guys.
It's Tuesday, so it's time for another short tip. This week's short tip is reignite the romance. Romance. You remember that thing that was happening, or those things that were being said all those many years and months ago? We want to bring that back up again. We are reading a book entitled Intimacy Ignited, and in that book it brings out 3 things that should be done as it relates to romance. And it says that you should romance your spouse with the unexpected. You should romance your spouse with the impractical. And you should romance your spouse with the intentional. So there are many ways that you can do that. Unexpected, obviously, something that she didn't expect or he didn't expect to happen that particular day or that particular week or whatever it is. The impractical, stepping out of your comfort zone. Maybe spending a little bit more than you normally would, or going somewhere that you wouldn't normally go, or trying something you wouldn't normally try, right? And intentional, making sure that it is specifically designed and geared towards your spouse. It's not something that just came out of the blue. You happen to be doing something and you're like, oh, this is for you. No, something that you specifically plan and put together for your spouse to reignite the romance. Now, we also got a question from someone asking, how do you recreate that spark? How do you reignite that spark if you have young kids? So we kind of want to address that with some practical things, right?
Yeah.
And you came up with some things that you wanted to share, right?
I did. I have a list, so I hope y'all don't mind me looking down at my phone. But I just wanted to say first that even though I wrote this list with children in mind, I think it can pertain to even if you don't have children.
Yeah.
Because it's, ways that you can reignite the romance. It works for whether you have children, especially small children, because we know that that's a challenge, or whether you don't have children. So the first thing I thought of was that you should have a conversation with your spouse. Let your spouse know, I'm feeling like we're not as romantic as we used to be. We don't do as much in the romance department as we used to. Find out if your spouse feels the same way. You got to have that conversation first. And it may be that your spouse is fine and you might be the one that feels like something is missing. If your spouse says, I didn't really notice anything was wrong, then you should maybe say, well, I feel like something is lacking, or I miss this, or I need this. You may not have needed it before, but now I feel like I need this. You got to let your spouse know, right?
That's crucial. We always say have a conversation.
Yeah. And then I thought about go back to the beginning. What were you doing in the beginning of your relationship that you miss? Go back to the beginning and think about the things that you used to do that was so romantic. And again, if you have children, it's kind of difficult to always do what you did in the beginning. And we understand that. So get a babysitter, right?
That's right.
Get a babysitter. We're always willing to babysit little kids. Our kids are big now, adults and teenagers, and so we understand how it was when our kids were younger. So get a babysitter. Try to find a babysitter that you trust, of course, that is willing to watch your kids for a couple hours so that you can do something romantic. Or if you don't want to leave the house, wait until the kids go to sleep and then do some fun things that maybe not so expensive, like eat a pint of ice cream together, sitting on the couch, or watch your favorite 30-minute show before you go to bed while you're snuggled up. Or just light some candles in your room and just lay down and snuggle and talk about your day.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. We used to, when we came home from work, we used to lock ourselves in our bedroom for 15 or 20 minutes, and our children knew not to disturb us, but we would lay in the bed and just lay curled up. Sometimes we would talk, sometimes we wouldn't, but it was just our way of connecting. And if you have bigger kids, then they can watch the smaller kids. That's a good tip, right?
Yeah.
So those are all, just suggestions. Those are not, I think that romance is relative, because what one person might think is romantic, the other person may be like, that does nothing for me. So you got to find out, what does your spouse think is romantic?
Yeah.
Like if it's like the 5 love languages. If I'm doing something that I think is really, really romantic and I present something romantic to you and you're like, You know, that's not, you got to find out what your spouse thinks is romantic and work on those things.
Yeah.
Hope those tips help.
That's good. And you had some other things too, like some things that you could do in terms of in home or outside of the home, and those were pretty good. Share some of those as well.
So I also thought of things like cooking your, and this is good for, like, again, if you have kids or if you don't, cooking your favorite meal together, right? Or getting your favorite restaurant food and bringing it home and setting the atmosphere with candles and smell goods and eating it together in your room. I know the one you're thinking of.
Oh yeah, you got some good ones. Come on, bring it.
I said that, where is it? Yeah, I said, well, that was the one where you can eat your food in your room, set the atmosphere really nice, but eat it naked. That's really romantic.
I'm hungry right now.
Yeah, of course. Those are some of the things I had. I think I said them all. Dance together. Dance to your favorite song
That's a good
together.
one.
That's really nice too, right?
Yep, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Well, it's important that you, first of all, like you said, have a conversation. Because you want to find out what are the things that your spouse loves. Now, you can go back and reach back to a time when things were really hot and heavy, and you can pull from those things. Yeah, hot and heavy.
Okay.
You don't like that? You can reach back to a time when things were very romantic and, you know, it was all lovey-dovey, and think about the things that you were saying and the things that you were doing. We say that all the time. And then you can incorporate those things. So the things on the list may work for you, they may not work for you, but you need to have a conversation about what does work. Because it is important that you reignite that passion. You reignite that romance.
You have to. It's important.
It is important. And in order to start a fire, you need a spark, right? So you want to get a spark going and then start fanning those flames with more and more activity. So our tip for you this week is reignite the romance.
Before you end, I just want to say, I feel like you have to want to do the work. Otherwise, it's not going to work, right?
Yes.
I mean, you might say all the time, you know, we're not as romantic as we used to be anymore, but you have to want to put in the work to get back to that place. Because we can give you all these suggestions, but then if you're like, I don't really feel like working that hard, then nothing's going to really change.
That's true. And you got to evaluate, how important is your relationship to you? How important is your spouse to you? How important is it that you meet your spouse's needs and that your spouse is satisfied and your spouse is happy and your spouse is comfortable and your spouse feels safe? How important is that to you? What are you willing to do to get your spouse to that space?
That's good.
Talk about it, figure it out, and begin to do those things that will reignite the romance. That's all we have for you this week. God bless.
God bless.